Okay.
Okay, you're being videotaped, if that's okay. I mean,
Sure.
can you introduce yourself and tell us about yourself, like what kinds of work you've been doing to make Portland a better place?
Sure. My name is Gary Spanovich, and I'm the Executive Director of the Holistic Peace Institute. And we've been operating for about 13 years now. And we started in 2000 with our first big peace conference at Portland State with 6 Nobel Peace Laureates. And the 6 were the Dalai Lama, Dalai Lama, Adolfo Perez Escobar, Betty Williams, Amnesty, Physicians for Social Responsibility, and one other one kind of escapes me. But we started with the 6 Nobel Peace Laureate Conference, and the theme was how to bring compassion into the diplomatic peace-seeking process. And we also started with working with Mrs. Kitzhaber, a 10,000 student Dalai Lama Youth Center, where he gave a talk on nonviolence to 10,000 students at the Coliseum. And he basically said that that all students will face conflict, and their initial reaction might be to fight or to run away. And either one is not the right thing. What you have to do, he said, is dialogue with the person you're in conflict with and work it out, negotiate it out. And we've been working with students now ever since, 13 years now. And we have a book that we published. It's in the school system. I think Brady Benton has a copy of it. And it's how to teach about Nobel Peace Laureates in the middle and high school classroom. Do you want me to?
Do you know the class is at?
The teacher is in the art gallery, holding interviews.
In the art gallery?
Art gallery.
In the classroom?
Yes, we're half of it, the other half's in the art gallery.
No, they have to get all these today. They're going to come into class probably like when they, you know when that comes back?
No, I would just give it to him in the art gallery.
Are you going to give it to him? Yeah.
Yes.
Like right now?
No, he's in the art gallery. He's going to be there for a little bit.
So you please make sure you give it to him this period because all the kids have to get their early books.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Sorry.
And as I look around at some of these Nobel Peace Laureates you have on the Martin Luther King, of course, I'm a great fan of his. Nelson Mandela, I have not met Nelson Mandela, although we did invite him to Oregon in 2001. He was not able to come.
Oh.
But his co-winner, President Frederick de Klerk, we brought here last year to Portland. He gave us a speech, a number of speeches. And Rigoberta Menchú-Tum, I've met with her, spent about a half hour with her, and she's on our list to bring. We haven't brought her yet. Jimmy Carter, we've tried many times, but it's kind of tough. When they get a little bit elderly, they're not quite as easy to kind of get into a conference. Wangari Maathai, I've heard her speak before. I haven't brought her, but I've heard her speak. So I'm a big believer in the Nobel Peace Laureates, and the work we did, we've been doing with schools is the last, that started in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is the 5th year we give away a Harold Schnitzer Spirit of Unity Award, and that's to 10 school peace clubs, human rights clubs, work like this, mediation, conflict resolution programs, and we, in order to honor peace education and leadership in schools. So, as I mentioned, Madison did win a Spirit of Unity Award for their conflict resolution and mediation program last year, and we hope Madison will apply again too. So that's, and deadline's June 15th for that too, so you need to get one of the teachers to apply. But the Dalai Lama talked at length in 2001 on the need for peace education. And he said back in 2001 that if from an earliest age, if students are taught about peace education, conflict resolution, and mediation strategies, they'll grow up to be adults with those skills. And when they have a conflict, if they're an adult and they're, say, a president of a country, and there's a conflict with another country, they'll remember that training, and instead of going right to pushing the missile button and starting a war, that they'll try and negotiate and use diplomacy. So he said right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so, so we think that's one of the most important things the Holistic Peace Institute feels one of the most important things we can do is to work with schools and students just like yourself to teach them about Nobel Peace Laureates, how they prevented war and saved hundreds of thousands of lives, and teach how teach about them is a personal story because they're very inspiring people, and that's kind of maybe one of the foundation stones of the work we've been doing in Oregon and all the schools. And we also include Southwest Washington too. We go that far too. And we have internationally worked, you know, for a number of years on trying to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and in Jerusalem. And we've also worked on the South Korean, North Korean conflict. Because we're in a state of war, both South Korea and the United States is in a state of war with North Korea. That means when there's a small incident that instead of ambassadors talking to work it out, generals talk. And when generals talk, they only know one language, and it's not the right language for peace, basically. So we are proposing a large conference to be held either in Seoul, Pyongyang, or China with about 10 to 15 Nobel Peace Laureates on new ways to end the Korean War and exchange ambassadors. And that's kind of what we've been working at for a number of years. I've been to South Korea 25 times, and I've been to North Korea, I believe, 3 times. So, and I did meet with the Dalai Lama last week when he was in Portland, and again he emphasized, just like he did in 2001, the need for peace education and peace leadership. And so we, you know, that's really one of our main thrusts. And so creating that book, writing that book, it's on how to teach about Nobel Peace Laureates. And they focus on the 12 Nobel Peace Laureates we've brought to Portland in the last 13 years. And their basic message, a little bit about them, and excuse me, personal history. And also we've proposed that schools have junior Nobel Peace Laureate prizes. And your prize, your Portland Peace Prize, kind of goes outside your school, so it's kind of much bigger. It's a community prize, and that's unique. There are a few schools in Oregon that have that, but they keep it within the school, so the students select one of their peers as a kind of peacemaker, and then they kind of have a vote. I think Baker Prairie School in Portland is one that does that. So I think what you're doing is great work.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
What is your definition of peace, and what is the best way, and what do you think is, in your opinion, is the best way to create peace?
Well, peace is not, sometimes people define it narrowly and say the absence of conflict, but actually, I can tell you, let me tell you what the Dalai Lama, when I asked him that question, is world peace possible? He said that, yes, world peace is possible because we have the ability to reduce nuclear weapons. Because you got to remember, if the 10 largest nuclear bombs went off, basically life on Earth would end. So when you think about the 20, 30,000, 40,000 nuclear missiles around the world, you don't need 40,000, you need 10 of the largest would basically be the end of history. So that's kind of scary. And the Institute's mission is to stop the killing, which really has to do with nation-to-nation violence and war. So so the Dalai Lama said, and this was in 2001, he said, we feel if we can reduce the nuclear arsenal and we can maybe eliminate the nuclear arsenal, and so that will bring world peace. That will more or less stop the potential killing of it. But then he kind of was quiet and he goes, you know, that part of a human being that likes to kind of, prick each other, he said, that's probably never going to go away. So, I don't know. That was his opinion. I think some of the other, I know the Physicians for Social Responsibility group feel that, and they're an NGO that won the Nobel Peace Prize, they feel that we can't give up on politics. That politics is a way to kind of bring world peace. Amnesty NGO, they kind of said that the way to bring world peace was the director quoted Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said that wherever there's conflict, you can be assured human rights have been violated. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to work for human rights for everybody. That will stop conflict. And I know I had Senator Hatfield moderate that 6th Nobel Conference, and he said, the best, the most important document in human history is the 1948 United Nations Human Rights Charter. Mm-hmm. And it guarantees human rights over a variety of, and he said if every country in the world followed that, adopted it, and really followed it, war would end. Mm-hmm. And he said the United Nations Human Rights Charter was more important than the Magna Carta, more important than our Constitution, more important than our Declaration of Independence. That it really is the most important document for all countries in the world. And Eleanor Roosevelt, former First Lady of the United States, she played a major role in the development of the Human Rights Charter after World War II. So, but to answer your question, my definition of peace is really kind of a compilation of those Nobels. When I bring them and I talk to them about peace, and they give me an answer, I really take that answer in. I believe these people are the world peacemakers. They've actually taken a situation that could have killed hundreds of thousands of people. They've articulated a peace treaty and articulated and in their own creativity have been able to, in a sense, implement it. The peace is held, and they have won the most prestigious peace prize in the world, the Nobel Peace Prize. So I think they are, in my world, so to speak, experts on it, mm-hmm. and I just offer their opinions more than mine. Thank you.
So how does your work contribute to the community?
I think it contributes by making schools safer, and students feel safer in schools. That's we've had a long-term partnership with the Oregon Department of Education and also the Oregon Education Association, the teachers union, and they have always said, for this work to be helpful to us, it's got to make schools safer, and it's got to make students feel safer in schools. And with that one school in Canby, they had a very high incidence of bullying and a little bit of friction between, Hispanic gangs and things like that in the school. And before they started their Nobel Peace Laureate kind of program, but 5 years later, it was down to 2 or 3 incidents, down from 50 or 60. So we know this work. We know exactly what you're doing here will make a difference in medicine. it will make a difference in this school, and if every school in the state could do the same thing, that would make all schools safer.
Okay, so through your work, it sounds like you do a lot everywhere.
Yeah.
What challenges or risks have you faced, and how did you like overcome them or get around them?
Well, a lot of times you're not, it's hard to connect with some of these world leaders. They don't know me. I know them. But I, kind of sometimes right, right place at the right time, and also persistence. Persistence is really important. So I had the opportunity to once meet with Kim Dae-jung's son, and Kim Dae-jung won the 2000 Nobel Peace Prize for, creating peace between North and South Korea. That peace lasted for 10 years, but it kind of fell apart about 5 years ago with the previous president. But I met him, and then I said to his son, "I'd like to meet your father." And he goes, "Well, he's going to be in San Francisco in 3 weeks at such and such hotel." So I called his chief of staff and said, "I'd like to meet with President Kim." Chief of staff called back and he said, "Well, you can meet with me, but not with President Kim." And I thought, well, ain't going to do me any good. So I said, no, I'll come down if I can meet with President Kim, but I appreciate meeting with you, but that's not really what I want to do. So then he called me back and said, "Okay, President Kim will meet with you, 4 o'clock, such and such a time." And so I went down and met with him, and I said, "Well, we want to invite you to Portland to give a lecture." And then he said, "Well, it depends on what my doctor says," because he was on death row for 3 years. And they tried to kill him 4 times. They tortured him. So when he came out of prison, he was on dialysis. And then while he was president, won the Nobel Peace Prize during that time, 4 assassination attempts. The last assassination attempts, they tried to run him over with a big truck, and partially ran him over. So then he's always on a walker now. So he's got some health problems from his persistence, so to speak. So then, then I had other opportunities. I went to a conference in Seoul, and I said, "We'll call him up, say, can I come over and can we meet?" So every time I do that, so I went with him, maybe 6, 7, 8 times. Every time, same question: "Kid, when you come to Portland?" And then every time he said, "Depends on what my doctor says." Then all of a sudden, in 2007, he calls me up. The chief of staff calls me up and said, "Well, we want you to come to Korea next week or 2 weeks, whatever it was. We want to talk to you. President Kim's decided to go to the United States on a speaking tour, and he's decided to go to 2 places, your place and Harvard." And then he said, and I was working with the University of Portland, and they were willing to offer him an honorary doctorate degree. So then the chief of staff said, "Oh, he's got 25 offers from 25 universities around the country, all of them offering a doctorate. But he wants to come to your place." Persistence, over and over, like a broken record, at Harvard. And so he came, and that was, it was a great thing. And I wanted him to speak, because when I met with President Kim, this is kind of this is just what he said. This was kind of maybe 3rd meeting or something. And I said, "Well, I can't remember what the question was, but the answer was, well, I said, what role did God play in your world peace work?" And he said, "Well, God did it all, because after I was a year on death row, they took me out onto a boat and to kill me, get rid of me, because the dictator at the time thought he would run for president and win, and that threatened the dictator, because he was a very popular man." So he said I felt myself literally going off the plane, sliding into the ocean 10 miles out. And all of a sudden a plane was overhead. And then he said, I saw the face of Jesus. And he said, the people trying to kill him thought the plane would see him trying to do that. So they didn't kill him. And so he had lots of stories about his faith, let's say, his faith and his ability to be strong in really life-threatening situations. So when he came here, I said, well, I think we should come to the University of Portland. These stories are really interesting. People are going to be interested. So why don't you give your talk at the University of Portland on the role that I played in your world peace work, and then you could give a political speech over here and a business speech over here. And he said, this is okay with that. And then his chief of staff came 6 times before he came to meet with me, and so we're going to have him at the Child Center. Went to the Child Center. This is too much. I mean, you're going to embarrass my president. Nobody's going to want to hear a talk about God and peace work. And can't you just have a classroom like this? You know, that way he won't feel embarrassed. You know, because we know we can fill a classroom. I said, no. In Portland, Nobel Peace Laureates are like rock stars. It's unique here. It's a state of peace. It's a state of sustainability. It's unique. It's just unique. And things can happen here that probably wouldn't happen in other states. So sure enough, he came and he gave that speech, and 3,200 people came to hear him speak about that. And so it's they're all really unique. It's really a great fun working directly with the Nobels, but it just takes perseverance.
Yeah.
What's the motivation, or what made you dedicate your life to this issue?
Say again.
What made you dedicate?
Oh, what dedicate?
Yeah.
Well, my own faith. You know, my own faith, because I believe that. Well, you know, when we first brought the Dalai Lama in 2001, I started working on it in 1999, working with my friend Jigme Tokyo, who brought him down, and I was part of the planning committee, and I had a lunch, and we had somebody from Mount Angel Seminary and a few other people, and I came up with this idea of inviting multiple Nobel Peace Laureates to come, and they all thought that was a good idea, because Dalai Lama's a Nobel, he's world peace, he's known that way. So they all left, and I was left with this thought, I've got to do this. I somehow got to invite multiple Nobel Peace Laureates and have a conference with the Dalai Lama. So I worked on that for 2 years, just about. And in the end, 6 came. I have 20 we can't come now letters from other Nobels that are, in their own right, are kind of interesting letters from all these famous people saying no. And it was a great success. It was just a great success. And we dedicated it to the conference theme to how to bring compassion into the diplomatic peace-seeking process. Because the Dalai Lama says you have to have a 2-step approach to peace. One is you have to heal the relationship. You have to restore and renew the relationship. And once you do that, then you talk about specific issues. And that's the part that's missing in diplomacy. There's no way to build a relationship. It's kind of a piece of paper and a peace agreement. There's nothing wrong with that if it stops the killing, but you really need to have a relationship. You need to restore something. And that's where the Dalai Lama has a unique perspective. But when I got done with the conference, I was just going to go back to my urban planning career. But I had 3 different groups come to me and said, this work is really important. You have to continue this work, and we're going to set you up with a nonprofit. We're going to hire a nonprofit attorney and get you started with this. Basically, I just said yes. It wasn't even my idea. And then 2 days later, I met a professor at Portland State, and he offered me office space, pro bono free office space, and so I was with him in that office for 8 years, and then I moved to Concordia University, and that's where our office is. And they give free office space for us too. So it's kind of just the way it went.
So if you could nominate anyone else for this award, who would it be and why?
Well, that's a good question. You know, immediately, the immediate thought that comes to me, Tom Potter. Tom Potter. And the reason is, Tom was always he's just a very, gosh, human person, you know? And he, many times, he passed 2 proclamations of peace while he was mayor for us. One, Kim Dae-jung Day, and the other, United Nations International Day of Peace, September 21st. I remember one time I brought 6 North Korean refugees to meet him in City Hall, and we were having coffee, and they had escaped across the North Korean border into China and then been kind of ferried out to South Korea. And he said, oh, we're having coffee before the meeting. And then they say, well, who's the mayor? What's his background? And I say, oh, he's former police chief. Fear. Incredible fear. Because police in other countries aren't like the police here. And they almost didn't want to go. They're afraid. But I said, no, it's okay. Trust me, it's okay. We can go. Yeah, trust me, it's okay. So we went, and it was a wonderful meeting. But the thing at the end of the meeting was they said to him, you're our hero. You're our hero because you're so much interested in peace and human rights. And he said, no, you're my heroes because of all the courage that you have. So it was wonderful. So Tom Potter.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for us? At all?
No, I think what you're doing is great. I just think you should somehow write it up, and you know, I do interact with all the schools in Oregon, at least twice a year, sometimes 3. But I'd like to see you write this up as you know, kind of like a tool, a peace tool in schools, where they can, and I'm happy to send it out with. I just think more schools in Oregon need to know about what you're doing, so they can maybe.
So it could be more.
They could adopt your idea.
It'd be nice if we could do something with all the other schools, like they could nominate and do their own interviews.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
have our own little conference with them.
Yeah, and if some way I can help you with that, I'm certainly. Oh, and here's another thought. There's a school in Sheridan, Delphian School. It's kind of a private school, and they are big. They have a human rights club, 30 kids. They're big into the UN Human Rights Charter. It's a very important document, very important. And so they won their Spirit of Unity Award last year to get the United Nations Human Rights Charter on a plaque in every school in the state. And they modified that a little bit. So, for example, tomorrow they're having an event, a free lunch, and then a 1 to 2 hour thing on their human rights work for other schools. And they're associated with another NGO. The NGO has an educator's kit on human rights, an educator's kit. And that educator's kit is a curriculum on how to teach about the Human Rights Charter. So it's very useful. I've seen it. It's really good. And so they're trying to promote that as a kind of resource for teachers in schools. And I suppose, you know, to answer another question, I'd recommend the senior who's involved with that. Her name's Erica Rogers, Erica Rogers. Erica Rogers. And I have her phone number. It's in my phone.
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
On that note,
And this is, I mean, these are the 13 years that, this is our, we did a concert for peace once, and so that's 13 years on the move, basically.
Wow.
But, let's see if I've got, okay, Tom Potter, actually, let me write it down on a piece of paper if I could.
Oh, got one?
Yeah, thanks. Now, he may not be here, when I think of it. They may have went on a vacation to Germany, but I don't know. You have to see. And then Erica.
That'd be good.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
For telling and letting us like interview.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you for considering.